Have you ever heard the saying, you need to feel it to heal it? It was something I had heard so many times before, and it was something that I could grasp intellectually, but it wasn't something that I could understand experientially until relatively recently. And what I realized is that that practice is so much more profound than that simple sentence lets on. So I'd like to share a story. It was a week last year where I was gripped with anxiety. It started on the Monday, and it got worse on the Tuesday, and worse on the Thursday, and on and on. And by the Thursday, I remember my body was contracted, my breath was shallow, my mind was racing from all the energy that was trapped in there. On the Thursday, I think it took me half a day to write a single email at work. I couldn't focus to save my life. And when my best friend called me, she said, "How are you?" And I burst into tears. So when my workday ended, I knew that I had to do something about this. So first I went for a walk. I love to walk. And I went walking, and it felt good, but it didn't change my state. So then I said, I'm going to go to my favorite sushi restaurant, and I'm going to take myself out on a date. And I had this lavish meal, and it was delicious. But still, when I was done, I could feel the static of anxiety still in my body. So then I went to my favorite coffee shop, and I ordered a slice of their triple moist chocolate cake. And if you come see me at Urban Jungle, I'll tell you where you can find that cake, because it's like cake and pudding had a baby. So So I sat with my laptop in front of me, and I wanted to write to get this out, but nothing was coming out. And I realized that as powerful as writing is, in that moment, I didn't need to process the energy with my mind. I needed to process it with my body. And what's interesting is when I left the cafe to go home, all of a sudden there was a whisper that came up from deep inside of me. It just came up into my awareness, and I knew it was different than the thoughts that told me to go write, or told me to go walk, or to go eat. It had a different quality to it. Because the thoughts, I could hear them in my head, but that little whisper came from deep within my gut, and all it said was, breathwork. And it's so interesting because at that point, I had done a few breathwork ceremonies, although probably like a year had gone by since I had done them. And it wasn't something I'd been practicing because I had forgotten it was a practice I could do, until you anchor it in your being as a tool that you remember to use. So I went home, and I laid down on my bed, on my back, and I started to breathe into my belly. And I was expanding that breath into my chest until my whole torso was inflated, and then I would just allow the natural exhale to exit my body, So I kept that going, focusing on connecting my inhale to my exhale. And I just kept breathing, and I did this for an hour. And for the first 20 minutes, my mind just whipped out that conditioned response of avoiding my feelings. So I was hearing things like, "That's great. You've done enough breathing. You could just go to bed. It would feel so good right now. Just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. It's okay." But still, I kept on breathing. And then the more I breathed, the more I felt like my entire being was starting to open up. All of the contracted tension I was holding on to started to release. My extremities started to tingle. I kept breathing. And all of a sudden, it felt like my abdomen was an egg, and it just cracked open. And what happened after that is the energy started rushing out of me so quickly that if you could have seen me, I'd look like a deflating balloon in the way that I was moving. Keep breathing, using the breath to support that process. And that must have lasted about 20 minutes, and not for a second did I contract again thinking, "Oh, what's happening?" Just surrender to it, allow your body to do this process because it knows what you need. And by the time I was done, I was in the deepest state of peace and bliss, my entire nervous system just grounded into relaxation. I remember reading a text by Robert Augustus Masters, and he teaches how to connect with your emotions. And what really stayed with me is he said, you need to bring your awareness to the sensations in your body, not on the stories you're telling yourself about those emotions. So then you go into your body when you feel something, and where is it located? Does it have a shape? Does it have a color, a texture? Is it warm? Is it cold? And you bring your awareness to it. Where you find tension, let's say there's a knot of tension in your abdomen, you don't want to focus directly on it, you want to focus on the space around it and use breath and movement and presence to open that up. And through your presence, you start to transmute that. When I tried this on the subway, I started to cry. It was beautiful. It takes courage to feel. We're conditioned to avoid our emotions, avoid our pain, avoid our fears, but what you don't hear so often is the more fully you learn how to feel, the more you unlock this exquisite depth and sensitivity to your being. Like Philip Shepherd said, it's as if you're removing the cotton balls within you that are muffling the resonance of life. And what that does is it makes you feel more alive. So I invite you to take some time, take some quiet time with yourself, no distractions, and just go into your body and feel the sensations. You don't need to do anything with what you find there. All you have to do is bring awareness in a curious and non-judgmental way, and through the act of observation of what's happening, it's neither good or bad nor bad, it just is. And as you bring your awareness to it through observation, your awareness will start to transmute those feelings so that you can release them. And so, you're feeling and healing.